No war with Iran, says warring, warmongering warmongers from Wartime HQ. World banking conspiracy, cooperation to print more debt, money. New sins announced by medieval voodoo organization headed by former Nazi. In the UK, oath to the Queen and treason law reform for landless peasant fucks. Hello landless peasant fucks, welcome to the fucking news. I'm naughty but nice. Here are tonight's headlines. The White House said yesterday there is no one inside the US government who wants war with Iran. Going on not to say, actually there's lots of us, but there's no one in the administration who is suggesting anything other than a diplomatic approach to Iran. Spokeswoman Dana Perino said a day after the commander of US forces in the Middle East resigned. Going on not to say,
it's nonsense to say Admiral William Fallon stood in the way of President Bush attacking Iran. After all, President Bush is a man who invaded Iraq preemptively based upon Walt Disney stories about weapons of mass destruction in a country we spent 10 years bombing into ever smaller pieces. This is a man who after 9/11 invaded the country where none of the alleged hijackers came from. To say his administration would be prevented from more attacks by one belligerent officer was a bigger stretch of credulity than calling America leader of the free world.
The unofficial explanation for his resignation is that there was a damaging perception problem between Fallon and the White House. People think Fallon is an intelligent, reasonable public servant, and the Bush administration are greedy, corporate, warmongering, fascist, insane, ranting religious megalomaniacs. It was an open secret in the US military circles that the Admiral disagreed with the Bush administration's strategy in the Middle East. Fallon had this to say last autumn on Iran. The constant drumbeat of conflict's not helpful or useful. I expect there will be no war, and that is what we ought to be working for. The White House, however, is at pains to argue that the military option with regard to Iran remains on the table. We don't want to use it, we just like looking at it, said an imaginary representative of the military-industrial complex. Ooh, look at the military option, all shiny and oozing taxpayers' money. Ooh, oozing taxpayers' money for our murderous profiteering. Ooh. Hey, do you think it looks better on the table, or should we put it on the wall? Maybe we could get it made into cufflinks. I like that. Military option cufflinks. Stock markets jumped around the world after the Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, the Bank of England, and other central banking families announced a pumping of debt, cash, into the markets. The auction of funds followed similar moves in December and January. A non-existent spokesperson for the wealthy banking families that rule over us all with no trouble at all said, "Hey, you want money? We got loads of money. We're rolling in it. Man, I could carpet the fucking world in money." It's just paper, you fucking morons. We've got a machine. It's called a printing press. It makes the stuff all day. Thing is, it's totally worthless unless your puppet governments enforce its use. Luckily for us, we own all of your leaders. So they've all agreed to buy our worthless pieces of paper and pay even more than it says it's worth on the fucking notes. We call that bit the interest instead of slave tax or robbery margin. It's brilliant really, and it gets better. Most people don't care the whole thing is a rip-off and actually sell us their future to get more of these worthless bits of paper, a process called getting into debt. Actually, the whole thing is just a scam to distract you from your slavery and dispossession of the land. A bit like the Great Wall of China, not built to stop an invasion, but to keep the peasants so busy they never stop to wonder why the emperor and his cronies are in charge. Why is the emperor and his cronies in charge? So, don't worry about the money, it'll never run out. We could go on printing it forever. Now, you can all go back to paying your debts and shopping, and forget you ever saw me. More on that story later. Pope Benedict III, 16th, a former member of the Nazi Party, now head of a large organization of irrational, superstitious property tycoons, renowned for child molesting, the destruction of ancient civilizations, the obstruction of scientific knowledge, and a succession of religious crusades, has announced a list of new sins. They are Environmental pollution. Yea, lest ye have offset ye carbon by buying the pollution sins of a third world country. Genetic manipulation. Lest it be to breed a young boy with a second anus who can sing in the soprano range. Accumulation of excessive wealth. For ye must never be as rich or even come close to the riches of our Catholic Church, the single most wealthy entity on earth. Inflicting poverty. Yea, lest ye be a church whose congregation is the poorest on earth, whilst ye be the richest entity. Then ye shall be forgiven, and hallowed shall thy investments in China and Halliburton be. Drug trafficking and consumption, lest it be the wine representing the body of Christ, or the beer representing the domestic abuse and murder committed by drunken men on a daily basis. Or the buckfast made by our monks in the UK, and so beloved of the underage drinker, stamping on your head in a drunken violent rampage. Morally debatable experiments, lest they be in search of the aforementioned soprano's anus. And violation of fundamental rights of human nature, the right to gravity being among them, and also the right to be infected with AIDS or have the baby of your rapist. Amen. In the UK, treason trials could return to Britain if the government accepts a recommendation by Lord Goldsmith in his Citizenship Review, which does not include plans for the creation of a new National Citizens Corps, whose members would provide Stalinist advice to others on training and development for citizenship in correct thinking and thinking correctly. Fascist, special US-style allegiance ceremonies to be staged by school children to increase national identity and worship of our beloved leader. Lord Goldsmith recommended holding them in landmark buildings such as the Tate, the National Gallery and Edinburgh Castle, but didn't say he supported pupils wearing obedience collars that gave them electric shocks if they forgot the words to the oath. He wants the 14th century treason law clarified so that levying war against the sovereign in his realm would apply to anyone on Earth. We don't expect citizens of Earth to be assisting our imaginary enemies, he didn't say. Long live the Queen and the controlling influence of her sex hormones. On the hive, think blah blah blah, your majesty. I personally have no objection to swearing an oath at the Queen, and in the interests of stimulating public debate, we at the fucking news would like to offer our own specially written oath for consideration. I, insert name, wish the Queen would fuck off, along with her entire family of fascist leech-like fuckers. And I swear to oppose and protest her rule, symbolic or otherwise, and the rule of her offspring as long as there is breath in my body. Your Majesty. Thanks, and now the weather. The planet's fucked, it's your fault, and it's getting worse. Join me next week to see if doing nothing helped. Have a nice weekend.